what's up, guys? Seerat here. I just wanted to share my 2 cents on the discourse that's come out of Fever Sky, the Caitlin Clark take foul, and Angel Reese's reaction to it, and all the media fallout. I'll touch on the allegations of racism at Gainbridge on a later date, likely after the W's investigation concludes, but one thing that I keep thinking about is how no one I know was happy about the discourse that could come after and how it happened anyways. From everyone I follow, there was this collective sense of discourse dread. No one I knew in real life, from group chats to media friends to people I follow, wants this, including both parties involved, who after the game did damage control on a situation that would be so innocuous in the men's game that we would have forgotten it within minutes of it happening. Reese, who has also tried to avoid all questions about Clark early this season, did so in 8 words. Basketball play, refs got it right, move on. Before the game, she even complimented the Fever crowd and the fans for how much they cared about women's basketball, and Clark essentially said the same thing, urging people not to make more of it than it was. And yet, as I'm recording this on a Tuesday, we are now 3 days into a news cycle that doesn't seem to be dying. Why is that? Why does it have to be this way? In the world we live in right now, Reese pushing Natasha Howard underneath the rim can't just be a savvy, if illegal move that's in the bag of every elite rebounder. It has to mean she's a dirty player. Clark's subsequent foul can't just be a basketball play, and her subtle push and stare down afterwards before walking away can't just be a moment of gamesmanship from a team who wants to play more intimidating defense this year. No, it has to mean she's a white woman being the aggressor and then playing innocent. Reese's subsequent reaction can't just be a prideful player in the heat of the emotions of the game standing up for herself, nor can her about-face after the game mean that she sees things differently now. No, she too has to be cast as both the aggressor and the victim. It's an ironic, though unsurprising, twist that the popularization of women's basketball has come with this flattening of all of its central characters into dehumanized political caricatures. Clark, not for the basketball fans, but the race grifters, who we'll be talking about in a bit, became, against her own will, a symbol of white grievance and a kind of fuck you to the perceived DEI-fication of America, for which the WNBA, stereotyped as bitter black lesbians, became a convenient stand-in. Clark's black teammates and fans are accused, in less kinder words, of harboring internalized racism. Talking about Reese, on the other hand, created a permission structure for racist people who have learned that ratchet and ghetto are more socially acceptable terms than the N-word. It's a dynamic that serves absolutely nobody, and unfortunately, I don't think it's going anywhere, because there's a powerful source it does serve: engagement and the algorithm. Anyone online looking for attention, from former football stars to aggregators to everyday users in search of dopamine, is going to get off on this story and find a way to make it about everything that has nothing to do with basketball. Websites like Athlon and Marca post inflammatory headlines that the articles themselves sometimes even refute, but you'd have to click that to know. And some of it isn't even real people. There's an entire cottage industry on YouTube with AI voices exaggerating every WNBA conflict into a race-based conspiracy. Anyone who follows the WNBA online has seen this stuff creep into their feed. That kind of content is everywhere, and it stokes the fires of viewers while feeding into their confirmation bias. And look, this is where I sympathize a little bit with the WNBA and Kathy Engelbert. It's hard to be solution-oriented about a problem that's driven by so many uncontrollable technological, racial, and political undercurrents, many of which are reflected in our society. At the same time, I think that they have fallen short in areas that they could control by leaning into the dynamic when they should be leaning out. The WNBA has scheduled Indiana and Chicago to play 4 more times this season. Apparently for the clicks, because this weekend's blowout made it clear that they are not on-court rivals, at least this season. The Fever are contending for a championship, while the Sky are contending for the playoffs, which is why that game was a blowout. 2.7 million people tuned in, the most viewers in 25 years. But like last year's games, I expect those upticks to be slight compared to when the Fever play other popular draws, like the New York Liberty, who they face this weekend. And when the difference you're talking about in viewership, like it was last year, is less than 100,000 compared to other games in a lot of cases, I just have to ask myself, is the juice really worth the squeeze? Especially when the conversation that happens afterwards, and it almost always happens, is going to overshadow all the incredible W action that happened over the weekend, which we will talk about very soon, I promise. To the extent that this matchup between the Fever and the Sky has become appointment viewing, it's for all the wrong reasons. In the meantime, I think that they could be replaced by other matchups. The Fever don't play Minnesota, a potential finals matchup, until late August. I'd much rather watch the Sky face off against the Aces and Asia Wilson because of the front court battle and the South Carolina aspect of it. And that's a game that drew 1.3 million viewers last season, and another matchup that we don't get until late August. Why can't we get 4 or 5 of those and 3 of Sky Fever? Is it a lack of faith in the product to stand on its own, which is a much larger and also wrong-headed issue considering how much the game is growing even beyond Clark? When the most popular stories about the league are about everything but basketball, it's a disservice to the players and actively hinders the growth of the game. There's a lot that the WNBA can't control about this. It can't completely get the toothpaste back in the tube, but I think the league needs to be mindful of what it chooses to water because it will grow.